In the 1920s, this mansion somewhere in Massachusetts had a root cellar behind it. Let's visit it in 2022. Built into a hill and mostly underground is this strange structure. Hi, what's your first name?
My name's Carl.
Carl, and this is the famous or infamous underground house, or not a house, but a root cellar or something like that at your property?
Yep.
Okay, now, when you bought this property, did this surprise you, or was it already on the listing?
Well, so it was on the listing. There was one small picture where they just had, you can only see the doors. And so we weren't sure what to think, and we're actually a little nervous about it, whether it would be haunted or too spooky to buy a house attached to it. And so that was probably the main thing we were looking at when we came to the open house, was just to check it out and get an idea. And it does not seem haunted to us. And there's no evidence of buried bodies or anything. So after we did that, then we took a good look at the house, and everything worked out for us.
Fantastic. Now, I have been in here before, about 40 years ago. I had the run of this mansion behind us, and this was part of that property at the time. So this will be fun for me to go back there after all this time. Thank you, Carl.
Yeah.
Now, these are concrete walls, is that correct?
Yeah, to me it looks like poured concrete, but you can tell on the back wall that it's before plywood existed.
Oh, it's all planks.
Yeah, so the forms were planks instead of plywood. And it's before rebar as well, because on the retaining wall there isn't any rebar in it, and there's a crack.
I would guess and estimate that this property was built about 100 years ago, in the 1920s. Now, what do you use this huge room for?
As you can see, unfortunately right now it's just storage. Pool and outdoor equipment.
Now tell me, Carl, when you first moved in here, what's the first thing you did when you came into this room?
I guess the first thing I did is I opened the door very slowly, because I'm always worried that there's going to be some kind of animal in here, raccoons, or maybe a bear. So open the door very slowly and then step back and wait a minute. And then, I don't know, it's pretty dark, so it's kind of spooky coming into it. But the previous owner had stored pool equipment in here, and when I moved in, I had to take care of the pool, so came in and got the pool equipment.
Look at the size of those beams. Now, you told me that it does leak a little bit. Some water comes through the ceiling. We hired an engineer to take a look at it, and they're putting together a report so we can figure out what we can do with it in the future. That's what I was going to ask you. It's a beautiful space. There must be some, you can make a not volleyball, but some kind of game room out of it, I suppose.
Yeah, I think it would be the coolest pool house around.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, no one would dig this just for a pool house, but because it's here, hopefully we can use it.
You could almost make 2 floors out of it.
Yeah.
You could have a loft.
Yeah, definitely a loft.
Now, Carl, do you have a big family?
I have 4 kids, 2 that live with me, and 2 that are a little bit older and living on their own.
And what do they think of this place?
I think that had similar experience with me. They thought it was pretty spooky at first, but yeah, especially like my older son is definitely interested in what we can do with it next.
Now tell me something. This is probably the most lighted day you've ever seen in here, because we've got some pretty strong lights.
Yeah.
Are you seeing things you haven't seen before?
No, I mean, I don't think there's anything I haven't seen before, but I think it's a lot less spooky when it's lit up, and it gets me more excited about, you know, what we could repurpose it into.
Now, over here in the corner, is that an old electrical?
Yeah, that's,
wire?
I believe it is. Yeah, it's an electrical.
So at one time, this did have electricity.
Yeah.
Now, Carl, you were telling me that you have a neighbor, Don, D-O-N, and he told you that this was more than just a root cellar. Do you remember what you were talking about?
Yeah, he was telling me that he has an old map, and it has this on it. And on the other side of the street, there was an orchard.
Did that belong to the mansion, you think? That was the Rice Mansion at the time.
Yeah, he was saying that his understanding was that this was a cider cellar.
A cider cellar.
And so the apples were made in the cider, and the cider was stored in here. And possibly in the 1920s, it was hard cider.
Uh-huh.
So,
Well, then wait a minute, that was during Prohibition.
exactly.
Oh.
Yeah, so I don't know. That was, yeah, just one person's theory, but it sounds like he has more documentation than anyone
I'll have
else.
to go talk to him.
Yeah.